So according to people and scoopers out there, and you guys have heard this before, originally Avengers 4, aka Avengers Endgame, was going to be called Avengers Annihilation. This was scrapped at last minute, so let's talk about why and what the Russos recently said. So what people recently found out during some interviews with the Russo brothers, Joe and Anthony, the directors of Avengers Endgame, was the fact that they played around with a couple of different names, but essentially they were always dead set on Avengers Endgame, but at one point it was rumored, and heavily rumored by people on the internet, to be Avengers Annihilation. Now, while they're never confirming this, a lot of people have speculated, and now the theory is that originally it was going to be called Avengers Annihilation going into it, but of course that switch happened before they dropped the trailer. And apparently this was due to the fact that, and you have to follow along here, it's a little bit of a conspiracy theory, the deal was getting finalized with Fox. So essentially Disney didn't want to use Annihilation because they had plans for that name down the road. Now of course the connection here is the villain Annihilus, who was over at Fox tied up with Fantastic Four, and they essentially didn't want to waste that name because if Annihilus shows up somewhere down the road in an Avengers film, you see the connection here? Why would you end up calling it something else when you literally could have saved that name for Avengers Annihilation and have Annihilus as the villain? It'd be like if you ended up calling Age of Ultron something else, right? It's like, why, Ultron's right in the title. It's kind of self-explanatory. But then again, Endgame, to me that title makes sense, and it makes sense that it was the title the entire time because it is the endgame of everything. They mention it in multiple movies, so it's kind of weird, right? So we're in this interesting conspiracy theory territory right now. It's like, okay, so what do you guys believe? Do you think it was called Annihilation at one point and they decided to switch it because the Fox deal was getting finalized? Or do you believe that it was Endgame the entire time and Annihilation is just something that took off and took on a life of its own? And do you even think Annihilation would have worked as a title to this movie? Because personally, to me, if they would have called it Annihilation, what exactly got annihilated? But Endgame, stories certainly ended. I don't know, you guys let me know in the comments down below. This will be an interesting topic.